Let's do it. So, hey guys, my name is Evan Kaloudis. Today I'm presenting on behalf of Lightning Labs. We've got a very exciting new product right here. This is Lightning Labs' first NPM module, and it's called LNC-web. So, before we dive into what LNC-web is exactly, let's talk about LNC, which is Lightning Node Connect. So, a while back, Lightning Labs released this protocol. It's a secure connection protocol for bridging the gap between your Lightning node and the web. So it really is conducive for getting your node connected to a web application. And the main perk, I would say, really is about getting that initial connection. I'm not sure how many people run their own node at home, perhaps behind their router or firewall. It can be very difficult to reach that node from the rest of the world beyond that firewall. Usually, you're connecting with something like Tor or I2P. There's some private VPN services like Tailscale, but they're all a bit of a pain to set up. Tor especially is super unreliable, slow, a lot of connection issues, and a lot of people have complaints using it. So we've got Lightning Terminal, Lightning Node Connect, which is sort of a novel solution that sort of addresses a lot of the issues with the alternatives. So we've got three pieces with Lightning Node Connect. We've got Lightning Terminal, which I hope a lot of you have used before. It's our web interface for interacting with your node, with Loop, with Pool. And Lightning Terminal also creates and manages your LNC sessions. So these sessions are sort of like your seed mnemonic. It's a 10-word mnemonic pairing phrase. And your session can be, just deleted at a moment's instance. And then in the middle, we have our mailbox, which is sort of a proxy server. This is a simple public mailbox that's a bit of a turn relay. There is a special one-way connection stream, which is identified with this 512-bit ID, which is derived from that pairing phrase that you use to make the initial connection. And the way it's designed, it's virtually impossible for anyone to occupy the stream that wasn't authorized to do so with that pairing phrase. You add in all this extra fun PAKE and noise encryption, and it makes listening in on the content virtually impossible. So you got a lot of great security assurances with this model. Ultimately, you're trusting someone in the middle to be operating this proxy of sorts, but that operator doesn't know what you're saying, and really can only just do some light timing analysis. So we got Lightning Terminal, this connect on your node. We've got the relay, the mailbox that anyone could run. Lightning Labs runs one, but that code is all free and open source. And then on the other side, in your browser, in the application you're trying to run in, is a WebAssembly, a WASM client embedded into that website, and that reference client knows how to talk to the mailbox and is able to send pretty much commands or API calls from our entire stack. So this includes not only just LND, but Pool, where you could buy and sell channel lease orders, Loop, which is our submarine swap service, and Faraday, which is our accounting service. So right out the gate, you get all four of those APIs. And then we get into LNC-web. So LNC-web is focusing on this third part of the connection, the end website and this WASM connection. So we're striving to create a module that makes this setup easy, simple setup for devs. No need to pull in the WASM or any of the secondary JavaScript code there. Oops, apologies. Let me see if I can go back. And just provide a smooth user experience for user just paste in this pairing phrase and get full connectivity to your node. So we sought to make out this module, and we identified a couple of design goals. So we wanted to make it easy to use. First and foremost, the modules should make it easy for wallet and app developers to implement LNC in their projects. We want it to be robust, so the API should be flexible to facilitate as many architectures as possible. We set out to expose all the methods from our main applications, LND, loop, pool, Faraday. We got that done. Typing, we made sure to use TypeScript to avoid JavaScript's weak typing. This avoids a lot of bugs and user errors. And we also take advantage of the protobuf definitions that you might see in LND, loop, pool, all of our products. We pull those down directly to create our typings for LNC-web. We also strive to keep it lightweight. There is the size of the module, which we're already working on cutting down, but the bigger issue is the WASM binary. This binary today ends up being something like 40 megabytes, maybe a little under that. So it's quite big. So we wanted to give developers the flexibility to pull it in however made sense for them. Like if it made sense to bundle the WASM directly into their application, you have the ability to do that. If you just want to pull it on the fly, by default, we have our WASM binary pointed to a Google Cloud instance. So that should just download in an instance or two at most. Then we wanted to make the module configurable. So, we know this tool is going to help out developers in a lot of different instances. Those applications might be designed differently. They might perhaps want to take key management into their own hands. So we made the package very configurable. And lastly, we wanted to make the module easily maintained. So our main concern was our APIs. So Lightning Labs has a bunch of API endpoints exposed on LND, loop, pool, Faraday. It's got to be greater than 80 different endpoints. And they're often changing. So we have new parameters, new things you could do with endpoints, new endpoints added. And we didn't want to manually maintain those all. So we made sure that we base all our definitions based on our prototype definitions. So we just got to update our the versions of each release, LND, loop, pool, Faraday, and it's super easy to maintain. And we put it all together, and we got this module. So LNC-web, it's now published, now out there for everyone to use. You can just download it with npm I at Lightning Lab /LNC-web. We've got a documentation page up on docs.lightning.engineering. We're going to be continuing to add to that. And the code is all public on GitHub. So hoping to get some eyes on that and some public contributors. So yeah, let's dive into this module, how you can use it as a dev. So you really just need three things. You need a instance of Node. You need Lightning Terminal running connected to your node. If you need more instructions on that, you can find that back here on the docs.lightning engineering page. It gives you a little rundown about how to connect litd to your node and acquire that pairing phrase. But yeah, this 10-word mnemonic pairing phrase is going to be found in Lightning Terminal, and you can copy it and use it with the app. And within your node project, you'll just run this to install it. Cool. Let's go into some examples then. This is sort of the screen in Lightning Terminal. I have to apologize in advance. I'm having some network connectivity issues at home, so I'm tethered to my phone. Cannot show everyone the connectivity steps here or the demos, but we've got a bunch of code snippets we could run you through. But basically, if you're in Lightning Terminal, you go to the navigation bar, just go to Lightning Node Connect. You'll go on the screen like this. All you have to do is hit this copy pairing phrase button, and you'll get your 10-word pairing phrase. You also have the ability to create, different sessions, different pairing phrases, delete them as you wish, toggle them between having all admin access, read, write, or just read. It's super intuitive within Lightning Terminal. So you'll get that pairing phrase, and you can start writing your code. So right up here on line 1, we're importing module, import LNC from Lightning Lab / LNC-web. Pairing phrase is defined as that 10-word pairing phrase that we just got from Terminal Web. And the bare minimum that we need to make a connection is right here, this object here. So const LNC equals new LNC. All we have to do is pass in a pairing phrase, and we'll load all the other defaults. So we'll be connecting to the default host of mailbox.terminal.lightning.today and be making that connection. Then from there, all you would have to do is call .connect, and you can see if the status is connected. Is it with is connected? You can see if the WASM is loaded with is ready. Go to disconnect. But perhaps you don't want to use that default host, the default mailbox. You have the option of setting custom server host. You can go and run your own instance if you so please. If you want to point your users to be using your instance instead of the Lightning Labs instance, you're free to do so. So that's this example right here with pairing phrase and server host. Below that, we have an example of creating this connection with a WASM instance pulled into the app. I believe you got to use your relative path here in this instance. And then below that, we have an instance with a remote path for the WASM client. So yeah, this is the WASM binary, that 40 megabyte file. You can put it on your own CDN, your own website, do as you please. By default, this is going to be the one that pulls from our Google Cloud instance. So yeah, so you have a lot of different configuration options just for getting connected. What we really recommend is using that pairing phrase. The other defaults are okay, but we really encourage using a password here. Now, without having a password specified, the module is not going to save any of your keys to local storage. So you can actually set this password a couple different ways. It doesn't have to be on construction of the LNC object. You could actually do it after the fact. And you could say, hey, this is my LNC instance with my pairing phrase. I'm connected. I'm going to go set the password on it afterwards by setting the value of the password on lnc.credentials.password. From there, the module is smart. Once you set it, the password, it will take the ephemeral stuff, the keys that are saved just in memory, and save it to your local storage using a fresh salt and that password to recover it. Then from there, really, you don't need your pairing phrase per se. You just need that password, and it will decrypt everything for you. Sweet. So I think that's it as far as initial connecting options. Let's show everyone how the APIs work. Actually, we have one more set of options we have on the custom key management. In the LNC object, you can overwrite what's called the credential store. And by default, you could just pass in your password as on the root object. But here you could pass it in manually in the credential store here. We also have the pairing phrase that you could set here, the server host, which is that proxy server. Then we have local key and remote key. And here's where things get a little complex. We actually have a 2 handshake setup for Lightning Node Connect. And on the first handshake, you are just passing in your pairing phrase, that 10-word mnemonic that you get from Lightning Terminal. From there, the second handshake gets triggered as long as your server client for Lightning Connect supports it and is the latest enough version. You'll go again and create a public local key and the server, a private local key, and the server will create a remote key to pair it with. And then from there, once you make that connection using the second handshake, you'll only need the local key and remote key to make that connection. So no need for that pairing phrase. The good thing about LNC-web is that we'll manage all these keys for you. So as long as you set that password like I showed you guys in the previous step. The local key and the remote key will be saved into local storage alongside the pairing phrase for backward compatibility reasons. And that way, users will only have to be prompted for their password to reconnect, which is really sweet. We've also got a couple other things in here, like an is-paired Boolean and the clear function if you want to clear out your credentials. But yeah, this is super robust. We think we have really awesome smart defaults for our key creation and management. But if you want to take things into your own hands, you can do that here. Now I think it's time for APIs. So you've gone ahead, you figured out what the best connection flow works for your app and your users, and you just want to start making some calls. So you import everything, you get your phrase, you make that connection. And now underneath this LNC object we've just created, we've got the 4 main services that are part of our stack. So we got LND, loop, pool, and Faraday. And then underneath each of these main services are each of the subservices. So the main service under LND is Lightning. And from there, we can make these calls to it. So the services are camel cased, the subservices are camel cased. The request names are all camel cased, and all the parameters and responses that you passed in and out of the commands are all camel cased. And these all follow the proto files that I was talking about earlier. So you can find all the documentation for all the calls. I believe we have on our API site. I linked that a little later in. But as I said earlier, we're not just limited to calls on LND. As you can see here, these are 2 on the Lightning call. Here's 1 on the signer if you want to sign a message. But we also have support for calls on loop, as you can see in the right column, for swaps, for pool, creating a new pool account, and for getting your insights from Faraday. You can call that right there. So yeah, this is the full kitchen sink of Lightning Labs calls. We're super excited to expose all of these in LNC-web. Moving on, we also have the ability to subscribe to streaming calls. All these streaming calls, they exist under the subservices, and we've got support for everything that LND, pool, and loop support in terms of subscriptions. You'll make your call, you'll pass in your params here. On a successful event, you can pass in a handler function. In this example, it's handle new data, and that will get triggered anytime new data comes in. You can also pass in error handler functions to all the subscribe functions and handle those however you see fit in your application. So not only do you get access to all of the synchronous calls, but you can also tie into all our streaming events. So we're really pumped about that too. Then we got 2 demos that we are bundling in with LNC-web. We've got kitchen sink over on the left and the connect demo on the right. So the kitchen sink demo is pretty much showing the access to all the different APIs LNC-web has. You'll paste in your pairing phrase in the main app and hit load optionally and connect, and you'll make your initial connection. You have to pop open the web browser console to see all the calls. But once you make that initial connection, you can go and hit the calls under LND, loop, pool, and see the sort of responses that you're getting back for them. So that's a great starter to kick it off with. The Connect demo is a great illustration of how you could potentially set up LNC for your user flows, what their login flow would look like. So on initial connection, you'll pass in a pairing phrase and a password to encrypt the secure keys with. And then from there, users will be prompted just to enter in their password for reconnection, or optionally pair with a new phrase and enter in a new password. So we really think that these are some really cool demos to get people started off with and understand the basics of LNC-web, how to get started. But we really don't know what people are going to build with this. I think it's really flexible, robust. You're getting the full kitchen sink. So we're really excited what people come up with, and really hope that this tooling helps make building those applications that much easier. So to recap, LNC-web gives us some really awesome benefits. So number one's a really easy setup and smooth user experience. There's no need to use Tor, I2P, Tailscale, port forwarding to connect to your node, wherever it is, whether it's in the cloud somewhere or behind your router at home on a Raspberry. Connecting has never been easier. Number two is we have access to all of the Lightning Labs APIs. So this means LND, Loop, Pool, Faraday. And the way we've architected things, it's super easy to update. So I would expect frequent updates. We're hoping for people to be able to implement our latest features and endpoints as soon as possible. And three, we got some really foolproof key management with super sensible defaults as long as you use a relatively secure password. But if that's not good enough for you, you can rip all that stuff out and override our credentials store. So super robust plugin. It's not just the keys, but your proxy server, where you're pulling the WASM from. It's super extensible, and we hope to continue that design decision and continue to iterate on it, especially now that it's public and people can from all over can contribute. And that's pretty much it, LNC in a nutshell. I want to thank you all for listening in today. I have linked the documentation for the module, our GitHub page, our NPM. That's all up there. Note that the package is currently on version 0.0.1 alpha.rc1. We're going to have an RC2 out hopefully by the end of the week. That cuts down on the bundle size a little more. And we're going to be continuing to iterate on this. Like I said, we're really excited about this, excited to see what people build with it, and we're excited to help support in any way. So here at the bottom, I leave you all with all the API references from LND, Loop, Pool, and Faraday, so you guys can tap into that, know how to make your calls with LNC-web and start building the applications that you guys are dreaming about building a little bit easier. And I also linked to the LND developer Slack. I personally am going to be on there this weekend, as well as on the Bolt Fun channel on Bitcoin design. I don't bite, so please reach out if you have any questions. This is super early module. There's going to be a lot of iteration on it. And we're really just looking to hear back from people, get their feedback, and get that feedback loop rolling. Because once that gets going, I think what is an amazing project is going to become even that much more amazing.
I think you missed one kind of detail. Are you announcing this here at Shock the Web for the first time publicly?
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
This is it.
We saw this as the perfect opportunity to announce it. Just wanted to jump on the bandwagon, help support development of Lightning applications on the web. We're just super pumped. I think I'm going to actually take the module and put together a little hackathon project this weekend.
Yes.
Sort of scratch my own itch. I'll be around. If anyone, again, needs help, reach out. We're looking for feedback. Everything is open with this project, and we're just super excited. Had a lot of the team just working on this, helping out. And it's finally in people's hands, and I'm really stoked for people to mess with it and for us to keep iterating on it. It's gonna be great.
I think some of the use cases of this, because this was a lot, and as you said, there's how much over 70 API, 7 different functions and stuff to be able to call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot. So we're pretty happy about this. So we've actually got 2 integrations in the works right now using this module. So we're also pleased to announce that the LNC-web module will be built into Terminal Web. That PR is underway. We've ripped out tens of thousands of lines of code that this module now handles. We're really excited about that. You're going to get all the same functionality you have in terminal web today, just a little bit different under the hood. And it sounds like our friends over at Albi will also be releasing LNC support in Albi using this module. They previously had a PR where they were constructing the LNC setup all manually themselves, custom WASM and whatnot. And they'll be opening up this PR publicly to people soon, so they can compare and contrast, hopefully see how many fewer lines of code it takes to get your node connected with this module. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
people would be quite pleased about that.
I was speaking with Bumi, and he was mentioning also that it might be possible to kind of like inject the library into websites as well. I don't think that's the implementation that that currently exists, but yeah, I'm super excited just to see how those interactions are going to start working. Let me ask you, Evan, because like some of the people on this hackathon, they're just kind of starting out. I heard today that it's someone's first hackathon, right? And we have a lot of like developers who maybe, just starting out. Shout out to Kala from Nigeria. They're this educational effort going on there.
Sweet.
And yeah, some of those guys and girls and people are like learning about Bitcoin and Lightning like right now, right? They may have like just started setting up their nodes and starting to connect to it and stuff. I saw some applications and stuff getting built there. So, like with consuming all of this information, like about Bitcoin itself, and then figuring out how to like utilize that to come up with an idea to build something, it's a lot, right? So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if me and you could do a little brainstorming here, right here, to see if, like what kind of like ideas some people at the hackathon can work on, because it'll just like get the, imagination rolling and stuff.
Sure thing. So, okay. So for what I'm thinking, I have a background in music, a little bit at least. And I'm really interested about what Lightning can do with our interactions with music, the possibility of cutting out these third-party middlemen like Spotify that take really bad rates, and really just leaning into seeing what we could do with streaming payments, as far as all sorts of multimedia. So theoretically, we can do something where we have like a Bandcamp sort of clone where an artist can go and upload a few albums and set prices for them for both download and streaming. And LNC-web could help facilitate that, have users easily connect to their nodes to make payments or receive payments on the other side of the puzzle. And yeah, it's just an itch I wanted to scratch. Probably be more dependent on figuring out all the streaming libraries and whatnot, because the Lightning stuff is so easy. Once you have the API exposed like this, you just listen to a payment to see if it's been made and trigger an event like a track being played. Something like that would be really cool. That being said, I'm not sure what people will make. I'm just trying to scratch my own itch as always.
Yeah. So okay. So let's say you set up you drop that WASM that library LNC-web into your page. Would you also be able to use it for like some backend services? Because you said you have to like listen for like certain kind of events, right? Like yeah, that event of like a payment being made. So like, could you also use it on the server side, or is it just in the browser itself?
So right now it's really most conducive just to for the front end browser, because we're executing this WASM. But I'm curious to see what people could do. I think there's room for some creativity, maybe rigging up some server backends. But it's a little more involved. I would say this is more ideal for users coming in and wanting to plug in their nodes to interact with a specific application.
Okay, so then to get that event back to the website, is there some kind of like listener functions or something? Um, to
Well, you can use those subscribe calls.
subscribe calls. Okay,
So the
interesting.
subscribe calls, you can end up listening for invoices being paid or new payments coming in. So you got a lot
Okay.
of flexibility there.
Okay, so that's the subscribe transactions or subscribe channel events.
Hmm.
Ah, okay, nice. And a channel event would be like an open or close or something like that, right?
Exactly, exactly. I think
Mm,
it also throws on if the state gets thrown, like if it goes offline, but don't hold me to
mm.
that one. Yes, but something like subscribe invoices would be perfect, or
Oh, oh wow, I see there's a list invoices call as well. There's a list invoices, so it would be able to list the invoices of that node, right?
yeah, you can pull all the invoices, then you can do a lookup invoice call on that individual one you're looking for.
Mm,
So there's actually a lot of flexibility you'll have, and
okay.
yeah, just another perk of just having the whole kitchen sink. It's pretty awesome. From having your wallet unlocker there to being able to set up a watchtower or just connect with the client. All our signing libraries with PSBTs and LND.
Mm.
New Taproot stuff that's just coming out in 0.15. We'll have that out as soon as that releases out. Yeah,
Would
super exciting stuff all around.
would this library be able to like so you mentioned like Taproot. If you need to do any kind of like signature stuff, like like I guess are there like some helper functions that you might want to use like um this, this just keeps cracking me up. Are there sorry. I need to turn that off. Are there any kind of like helper functions that you might want to use to like make certain actions that are off node easier, or like or most of the functions like for like on the node itself?
Most of them are interacting with the node directly, but there's
Mm,
some certain actions that don't necessarily interact with the network, like right out the gate, right?
okay.
So, like if you're just generating an invoice or not giving it out, or you're generating a PSBT and not broadcasting it. Um,
Okay.
so there's some instances there.
We have a question here, or I think it's a question. If we're talking ideas, I've always been interested in Lightning enabled SaaS dashboards. Rather than paying per user per month, you could pay by actual usage. Definitely, 100%. I am stressing this so much. Like every time we have these events, every time we talk about Lightning, this is exactly what it's about, right? And I'm going to quote Roy again from Breeze. Subscriptions on the internet are like if someone wants a glass of milk, they have to, buy the whole cow. I think that's the best analogy for the subscription business model. I absolutely hate it because it's so like conniving. Okay, I'm going. Sorry.
No, I'm totally John.
I'm
I'm there 100% with you.
gonna stop my rant.
We've got this great new payment network that makes it conducive to do micro payments. Like
What's it called?
imagine like paying like 2 cents on a credit card transaction. Like they'd be like, no, you can't do that. It's going to be really hard to process. So not only do we have this network that allows us to facilitate transactions of such a small amount, and hopefully we keep those micro payments rolling as long as possible, but we also have the units to be pricing these goods in. Right now that we have stuff like a millisatoshi, even though they won't settle on chain, you are able to just pay for things so granularly now. I think that's really where this whole network shines. The new services and micropayments that are going to be able to be made on this network that we previously couldn't do before. So uh, I think the coolest apps are not going to be made just trying to recreate, the cool stuff that we have now, but trying to think a little bit outside that box and think about what we can provide now that we couldn't previously provide. So
Yeah, I got a question here. What is a millisatoshi?
Excellent question. So a single Satoshi is 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, and it's the smallest unit of Bitcoin that you can, transact with on chain. On Lightning, we can go smaller than that. We do 1,000th of a Satoshi, and it's called a millisatoshi. It doesn't resolve on chain though, so take that as you will.
Yeah, thanks for that. Like I said, like some of the people starting up here, they're, just coming in. And I think one project that could be kind of like nice to get started with is like visualization projects, right?
Mm.
If like, so, if you're not, like if doing like the whole payment call and subscribing to events, maybe that's a little too much. And for you, we could just like visualize and start inspecting the data. So tell us what kind of data can you pull out of this? And I know you said there's a bunch of API calls, but
So,
like let us know. Like we have you on here, so let us know, teach us about them.
okay, so
What's your top 3 favorite ones? Let's say the data that you can pull.
okay. So just data you could pull. Um, I would say I really like the fees call. Uh, I personally have my node up in a good location, put a lot of capital on it. So I like to see uh, different payments that I've routed in different periods. And the fees call will get that all for you. Fee report and the forwarding history, super useful calls. For cool graphics, I would say a really interesting one would be Describe Graph. This lets you get the latest graph state from the Lightning Network. So this means all the nodes that you've heard about on the Gossip Network, and then also all the edges or channels that connect those nodes that you've heard about. You can get back massive amounts of data, and we've actually seen a lot of cool Lightning Network visualizations. It's been quite breathtaking to see as the network has expanded. But I think there's still room for some fun innovation there. So excited to see what people could cook up there.
The Lightning Network graph
Yeah,
plus
yeah.
plus music visualized.
Oh,
Whoa!
there we go. That's an idea. We could have it like pulsating, with the beat, and you could see
Yeah,
the path it's coming from. Maybe I don't know.
Lightning Network music. Okay, that was just 2. Come on, what's the third one?
Uh, let me think. Let me think. Getting all your list of channels, that could be fun. You could do a breakdown of how those channels are allocated as far as what your balance is locally versus remotely. You could also do something where you show the channel sizes relative to all the rest of your channels. So like your big channel could be proportionally to scale, and then you could see how big the other ones are relative to it. That's a good one too. But really, nothing is going to compare to the sheer amount of data that you get from that described graph call. I think you could have a lot of fun there as long as you don't mind parsing a big amounts of data.
Is it possible to like filter it on the terminal side, or like before it comes to the browser? Is it possible to like filter some of those out, or do you have to filter it whilst it's in the browser? Like,
We do have some parameters on it. Let's
ah,
see. Okay, so describe graph, you can't really filter down too much, but you can decide to filter on your unannounced channels or not. So you can say, okay, this visualization is going to be public. Let me not announce my channels on it if it's detailed enough. But
hmm.
a lot of the describe graph stuff you probably want to parse yourself, and is also going to be dependent on how long you have your node online. If you have a node online for a year, it's going to have a lot more graph data than something you put on 5 minutes ago.
So what I'm thinking about here is like page 1. You say, okay, so you can make this client-side application, right? It could be hosted on Google Pages, Netlify, Vercel, wherever you want to, right? This client-side application, FTP, that's still a thing, guys, right? Um, right?
Taking me back, Johns.
I'm sorry, I'm having fun with this. I ate food today. I ate food today. It's a big deal. So, Okay, so you have this like client-side application, in JavaScript, React, jQuery, whatever you want,
Mhm.
and you have like some form fields where someone could like put in their configuration details, and that feeds into um, uh, 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 the functions, whatever that you create to connect to your node, right? So you're basically creating an interface now, right, for anyone to be able to like drop in their configurations and stuff, and then get their data on their node visualized. I think that's something that could be possible.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
think
So
that our second demo, the Connect demo, once you sign into it, it pulls down your basic node data. So, how many channels you're connected to, how many are offline, major balances, I think. So yeah, that could be a great spot where instead of pulling the get info, you pull down the graph data, and everyone could get a visualization using your algorithm for mapping that data out. That could be a cool project for sure.
and then the music.
And then the music, just everything you can do on CLI, it's available for you in LNC-web. So,
Okay.
and I'll be around on the L&D Dev Slack too. So, any
Okay. Cool.
questions,
Cool.
reach out to me on there. I also have my DMs open on Twitter, and yeah, we'll also be tracking the LNC-web GitHub pretty closely. So, if you want to iterate on anything there, feel free to open up a PR. If you've got an idea or an issue, feel free to open up an issue. And yeah, there'll be much more to come.